Hi, Pat Moran from Healthier Money. So I thought this is another episode of Sick Money, where it's a show where we try to basically help all those people that financially are struggling, having problems, looking for answers, essentially have a lot of sickness going on with their money. So today what I thought we'd focus on is some practical ideas that you can do during this time of uncertainty, a lot of craziness, whether it's with your job or how you're trying to stretch a buck or some of the moves you could be making financially. So just some common sense ideas that I think could be helpful. I know that we're all getting these stimulus checks now, or maybe you're still waiting on yours. There are some rules that you have to adhere to essentially get your check, and you can go to irs.gov. There's great information on there that can tell you the status of your check. If you don't have a check, some of the things that you need to do to get your check. Married couples get up to $2,400. Single taxpayers with adjusted gross income of $75,000 or less would get $1,200. $150,000 AGI, adjusted gross income or less for couples to get $2,400, and then $500 for children in your household that are dependents. So there is some of this money out there that is coming. It's imperative that you make sure that you had filed your tax returns. I was working with someone and talking to someone, and they said, hey, how come I didn't get my stimulus check? And it turned out that they really hadn't filed for 2018. There was a glitch, and they hadn't filed 2019. So they had to fix a couple of those things in an effort to get their checks. But that website can help you with a lot of the rules, the conditions, and things that you need to follow to get your check. So you get your check. What are some of the things that you can do? Well, there's a lot of forbearance going on right now with a lot of different aspects of your revolving or installment debt. And what I talk about is your credit cards, your auto payments, your student loans, different things like that. And forbearance means that maybe there's some different things that they've added in to those payments right now that could be of your benefit. One thing that strikes or sticks out to me is the student loans. And I know a lot of people have student loans. There's over 44 million people that have a student loan, and on average, people pay their student loans off in their 40s. Well, the government, through the CARES Act, introduced some legislation that could be really helpful. There is forbearance, the ability to not have to make payments if you're financially strapped through September. I believe that it goes all the way up through September 30th. So from the middle of March to September 30th, you do not have to make student loan payments if you don't have the money to do so. That doesn't mean that they're just going to be forgotten. They'll probably be put on the back end, and we'll revisit those later. But right now, if cash is critical and you need money, look into your options with your student loans. The other thing is they're waiving the interest on student loans. So most of us now have the ability to make payments if we want to, and it's going directly towards principal so that we're not paying interest. And by reducing that principal balance, we essentially are reducing the amount of money that we're paying, having to pay interest on. So that's real nice. All the student loans have gone through forbearance, so you have to let them know if you want to continue to be making your automatic debit payments, your installment payments. If not, then all the payments are going to stop. And you can continue to opt out of that forbearance by saying, I want to continue to make my payments as planned, or you can let it happen and simply send in your checks to go ahead and make your payments. But what a great time for you to get caught up on a little bit of your principal to reduce your overall balance and not have to pay interest on that. Okay. Another great thing is to know that if you can't make those student loan payments, you don't have to, all right? And that doesn't mean that you say, oh, I'm just not going to make it because I don't want to. It's because there's a real need there. There's a financial need. You can't make it, or it really is going to affect your budget for food or all, maybe other aspects of your life. One of the things that has been just really a cause that's really close to me is hunger and trying to fight hunger. And it breaks my heart to see these huge amount of lines in Florida and Texas and all these places of people lining up for food banks just to get food. And when they interview some of these people, just to hear the stories that are associated for why they're there. And many people are there for the first time, and they feel guilty about that. But we're in this together. This is America. In some respects, I expect more from the way we've handled things and what's been going on, but the die's been cast and here we are. But we need to be helping each other. And with those food banks, it breaks my heart. So if you have to forget about paying your student loan debts to make sure you can put food on the table, then by all means do so. Ironically, I was seeing where stocks like Hormel, Campbell's Soup, some of the Hormel with the Spam, and some of these companies have done really, really well, because I think through the coronavirus, people are discovering the middle section of the supermarket, all the canned goods and all the different things that we can do with meal prep to bring the cost of food and things down. And there's all kinds of bulk discounts you can look for on that. I know you've got the Costco's and the Sam's Clubs and things of that nature, but couponing is not a bad thing. Go into the Wednesday paper or the Sunday paper and grab those coupons and be smart with your money. And there's all kinds of resources out there on the internet that you can be doing to buy food more effectively. You've got this stimulus check. Maybe this is the way that you really go and you stock up that pantry to make sure that that's been addressed with. Some people will take this stimulus check, as I say, may not be able to pay student loans or take that money and actively try to pay down as much as possible to get a head start on not having to pay interest on those student loans. The other thing people might use is a savings, your emergency fund. They may bring that money in to start bulking up a little bit of a rainy day fund, so if something happens, you have some extra money to be able to get the car fixed or help out because in my situation, I blew out a cavity, so I got to go get a tooth fixed. There's all kinds of different expenses that come up that are unplanned for, and that stimulus check, if you don't actually need it, could be a good way to help beef up your savings. I'm reminded of this as I talked to a woman on Friday, and the story got me upset. I've been in this business 34 years, and I've seen a lot in 34 years. And it really bothers me when I hear stories and see things that have happened that maybe weren't the best advice to have given someone. And you kind of question why that person who gave the advice gave it, if it was more because they had their best interest at heart as opposed to the client. And I get upset because that really gets a bad name for our industry. It's the people that are out there doing bad that ruin it for the people that are really trying to do good. And I've said on this show many, many times, our responsibility right now is to really get out there and do our part to help people financially, whether it's to manage risk or give them some investment advice, or with our Young Money show, giving ideas with young people as to how they can save or get jobs, or just providing practical everyday advice. So she had her air conditioner broke, and it was going to be $5,000. And if you know Arizona, you need air conditioner. I mean, I think by the end of the week, we're going to break our 90-day records, and it's going to be as high as 95. So this is an elderly woman who needed to fix her air conditioner, but the way that her finances have been planned for and what the advisor had positioned her money in is she had this emergency fund, or she thought it was an emergency fund, and she had taken a $20,000 hit on her emergency fund. And when she was complaining to me that she couldn't understand why that happened, because she told her advisor she needed a sum of money that could be liquid and safe that she could use to take care of unplanned expenses. And having extra cash around, especially through a time like this, is great. So in talking to her, I was like, how could you lose $20,000 on your emergency fund? And as I went through the conversation and talking to her, and she shared some statements with me, it was that they had been placed in some proprietary mutual funds, and those mutual funds were invested in stock, and she had taken a hit on her portfolio. And unfortunately, her portfolio had dropped by $20,000. So I went through and she didn't want to necessarily sell that because things were down, but she was looking for a way to get money from her other investments. And looking at what this person had done, everything was tied up. So the ability to go and get her $5,000, unfortunately, was from this. So I was I was adding insult to injury and telling her, listen, it's got to come from here, and here's why. And I outlined all the different things for her, and she was very upset, but at the same time, she said, you know what? You're talking to me in a way that I truly understand what I'm doing. I placed my trust in this individual because this is who my husband had used, and her husband had passed away. And I really trusted that this person would be acting in my best interest. And it was obvious that that hadn't happened. And so here she is taking a $20,000 hit on her portfolio, and I had to go through, and she had to take another $5,000 to fix her air conditioner. When we talk about, excuse me for a second. When we talk about your money, your emergency fund being safe and liquid, we're talking exactly that. It's not putting the money in the stock market or doing things that could cause you to lose that money. It's not anything more exotic than a savings account. I know that there's companies out there right now that are advertising higher than the national saving average. I think you got Barclays and Capital One, Goldman Sachs. But again, safe, solid, secure, your ability to write a check if you need to. So as the stimulus money comes in, maybe you're, bumping up your emergency fund, or maybe you're going to have an emergency fund for the first time if you don't, specifically need that money right away. The other thing that people are doing is they're doing things like paying down their credit card debt. And I ran into another person that had a lot of credit card debt, and he was saying, things are tough. I've lost, hours at work, my income's down, and I got this credit card debt, and I don't know what to do with it. And I said, you need to call the credit card company. Too many people during this time are just not making payments or stopping, what they're doing, as opposed to calling the institution or the organizations that you're working with on your debt to ask them what they can do to help you out. And I told this to this person. I said, call your credit card company and see if they can provide any type of relief, at least help you through this time. They're on your side too. They want to get their money, so they're going to work with you too. And if you just stop paying that, then the chances of them getting that money aren't good. And if they have to go through and try to fight you and get it out of you, there's expenses involved. They want to work with you. So maybe your minimum payment's $300 a month, and they'll say, hey, we're going to drop your minimum payment to $25 so that you can get through this. Or we're not going to charge you interest. Or we will work with you. Tell us what's going on. And as I gave this advice to this person, he had a number of credit cards, and I went through and I outlined them with them. And sure enough, he called and was able to get a lot of relief that made a real difference to him right now. And so he was able to, manage his credit card debt a little bit more effectively. And he was able then to not have to take this stimulus check and simply turn around to throw it all at his credit card debt, and to have a little bit of money to make sure that he could feed his family and get through this time. There are some ways that if you get the stimulus check and you're going to apply it to credit card debt, there's two psychological ways out there that I know have had really good success in instilling confidence and giving you that boost that to be able to see the results that you can pay off your credit card debt and you can get out of debt. And one of them is called the avalanche method, where essentially you take all these credit cards and you try to find the credit card with the highest interest, and whatever extra money you have or money from the stimulus check, if you don't need it, put it towards that highest interest rate credit card first, so that as you pay that off, you're able to pay off the credit card that's doing the most damage in the way of interest to you. And it's a psychological win for you, knowing that you paid this down or paid it off and you were able to do it. Or the other way you can use is the snowball, where you take all your credit card debts and you take the smallest one first and you pay that off, so that you build a little bit of a positive momentum for yourself and paying off some of those debts and putting them aside. And the one thing I've told people is once you get a better handle on your credit card debt, and it's in a situation where you can manage it more responsibly or just be done with it, the greatest temptation then is to turn around and charge back up. Don't. All right? Throw them away. I've had one person who ended up taking them and put them in his freezer, his freezer, and he froze them. So it was a pain in the butt for him to go and get them to use it. Other people, cut them in half, make sure that obviously you shred them and dispose of them properly. But if you're going to be tempted to turn right around and charge again, don't. All right? I've talked about payments on your credit cards and credit utilization being the two biggest factors against your credit score. Credit utilization means that if you, whatever the amount of credit you have, if you have 30% more of that at one time, that really affects your credit score. So imagine that you have $10,000 available to you in credit by a couple of credit cards, maybe a department store, whatever, and there's $10,000 that you literally can go out there and spend on your credit cards. If you go over $3,000 or 30%, it really can work against you from your credit utilization is a score that really impacts your credit the most. So keeping that below those 30% thresholds is really important. And then late payments. Oh, late payments can drop your credit score by 50 to 100 points. I know that sounds unbelievable, but that's what can happen. So working with your credit card companies to make sure that that you don't do that. And then there's fees that are associated with that. I know I forgot to make a payment on one of my cards. It was a day late, and I talked to them, and they had already charged me a fee. Fortunately, with my good credit history and how I've paid these people, they deducted it, but it was an extra fee that I would have just to incur. And a lot of these credit card companies, if you look at credit cards, there's two ways that they make money. Yeah, it's the interest that they're going to get on your charging the credit card, but it's the additional fees that make a fortune. The late payments, the no payments, the stupid things that we do, which a lot of this now could have simply been avoided by picking up your credit card the phone to your credit card company, your bank, or whatever, and saying, I need help. Right? And they will work with you. The other thing that I see is that people maybe want to invest more. And we've talked about a zillion ideas that you can use. One of the ideas I like is the drip. If you're a first-time investor or new to investing and you want to kind of get your feet wet and you want to start slowly building into an investment account, I know that there's Robinhood and Betterment, things like this, but the dividend reinvestment account, or the drip, is a cool way for you to pick out a couple of individual stocks that you like and systematically start building a position in those particular stocks. You could start with as little as $25 to $50 a month, and they will go through and systematically buy shares of stock for you every month with those investments. And you can have your dividends reinvested, because most of us are doing this. We hopefully have a longer time horizon or doing this for growth. You literally can set these plans up. Computer shares, one company that comes to mind, but Robinhood and Betterment, all these companies out there provide these services, and you can buy shares of stock in good companies with strong balance sheets that have good dividend track records, and buy into those. So your companies like Johnson & Johnson and Coca-Cola and Walmart, Amazon, I could go on and on. I've talked about industries that I'm a little leery of, hospitality, leisure, things like this. I talked about some of the oil stocks. Wow, talk about craziness with the oil. Who would have thought we'd get into a negative position? And I know some of that is technology driven with the filling of contracts, and I'm not going to get into it all, but meaning that you would be paying $37 a gallon to have your oil store. But I've talked about those stocks with good yields. It's tempting. Stick with the industry leader. To me, I think that's Chevron. But again, you can go out there and build positions in really good, strong companies and do it systematically. So you can take that money and start a little investment account for you. The other one that you can do with after-tax money and have that grow completely tax-free. And here's the beauty of it. If you get into a pinch and you need some money, you can get some of the money out that you originally invested in the Roth and simply leave your earnings in there to be able to still have it be a Roth, not incur any penalties, and get some money if you need it. It's the last bastion of liquidity, like we talked about with your 401k. Although I did a podcast earlier that there's some neat things that are available now on that, which I'll touch in a second. But a Roth could be a great way for you to start building an investment account that has tax-favored aspects to it, allows that money to essentially grow tax-deferred to your 59.5, and if you were responsible and played the rules all along the way, you can pull that money out completely tax-free. What a great way to build money, because I've talked time and time again. Taxes, I feel, are going to go up. And given the huge amount of stimulus and everything that's been happening, government has to pay for this one way or the other, which is reducing revenues or increasing taxes. So which one do you think is more likely to happen? A Roth can avoid all of that. So again, a nice way to be able to go through and be responsible at that, as I talked about before. There's also a couple loopholes that just got opened up by this act if you're looking for additional cash that goes beyond your stimulus check, and that is the ability to pull up to $100,000 out of your 401k or your IRA, and if you're under 59 and a half, not have to worry about the 10% penalty that's associated with an early withdrawal. You still got to pay the taxes, but you can pay the taxes over 3 years. So you can get some instant liquidity, not worry about that 10% early distribution penalty, and be able to get some money for you, from these accounts. I say it's kind of the last money you want to touch, but listen, everybody's situation is completely different. We're all going through crazy times right now. Some of us have money, some of us don't. Some of us lost our job, some of us have a job. I mean, we're pushing 25 million people are out of work right now. And that money has to come from somewhere. So looking for relief on your debt, looking for ways to get additional income from maybe some of the savings and things that you have or additional funds is very, very important. You have to do what you need to do to survive and get through this. I saw where 3 states are going to open up: South Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. And they're going to slowly bring businesses on board, and they're going to start as early as next week. The governor said the consequences of the disease is starting to create enormous financial consequences from our economy that make that risk much greater than the risk associated with COVID-19. Now, we're going to act responsibly as to how we're going to do it, and we're going to do social distancing and masks and things of this nature to limit the costs. Our hospitals, unfortunately, if we did have a little bit of a spike, could handle that. But the economic damage is getting to the point where it's undoable. It's so far down the path that many of our small businesses and people won't come back. Businesses will close their doors forever. People will struggle for years. Make the financial setback of 2008 look like child's play. And that's what's happening now, is you're getting these governors with the tough call realizing that there are parts of their economy and small businesses that have been there that are literally going to get wiped out. I think about a sandwich shop that we always try to go to in downtown Phoenix. I always try to patronage all the old mom and pop businesses that have been in Phoenix, and take the guys to some of the little cubby holes and hot spots that I've known. I think about this sandwich business that's been in business since the 1940s. And I've sat here several times during all of this, and I really wonder, are they going to make it? This is a family business that was started by his father, and now he's working in it, and he's now bringing his daughters up to take over when he retires. And I'm thinking about that business that's been around for 60 years. Okay, all they've been doing is providing good sandwiches and good food and good times and stories that you're able to sit around and talk to. I mean, they have picnic tables in there as the seating. But they've been in business for 60 years. They've provided over 1 million sandwiches, and they're on their way to 2 million sandwiches. And I wonder, is he going to make it? Literally. That's a part of Phoenix, history, vintage. That's 7 or 8 people that work at that business that literally are gone. The business closes its doors, not making any money anymore. And part of Phoenix, that historical, institutional type of Phoenix, is gone. It's an institution. It's been here for 60 plus years. So I respect what those governors are doing, and they're not making it a free-for-all. There's a system as to how they're doing it. There's a method to their madness. But they're saying that the financial crisis and the economic crisis is going to be terrible. So you got to do what you got to do to make money. One of the big things right now is I know at our house, my wife is going crazy through all the closets. And I'm going to be cleaning out the garage. And there's a lot of stuff we don't need. So she's put it online or taken it to some of these consignment companies that are still open, taking these things that are basic necessities that people need. And she's selling stuff. She's raising money, cleaning out our closets and doing things. Again, it's extra money that you can do. And there's a zillion ideas out there. We've got this thing called the internet, which created the world's largest library of ideas and ways that you can side hustle and make additional money. You have to do what you have to do. The last thing I'll talk about is we have the stimulus checks. We also have this whole thing now on taxes. And I know the tax deadline for filing got extended to July, but a lot of us have filed taxes, and over 74% of Americans get a tax refund. It cracks me up because in essence you're giving the IRS 12 months interest-free of using your money, but there's something about that big refund check coming in the mail that has this psychological impact and boost to people. But the average refund is over $2,100, and so that's real money. Things that you can do, what I've just talked about: invest, build an emergency fund, pay down your debt, have stock up the pantry and the shelves for food. I don't know about toilet paper if you can find it, but good luck. But things that you can do right now to be in a better position to ride this out. And you have to be really smart with the decisions that you're making. I know that there's some things that my kids have wanted through all this, and I've had to learn, two of the most powerful letters in the English language that form that word: no. No, the timing on this is not right. Maybe we can revisit it later, but I don't think that's where we should be spending our money right now. And they've done a survey, and I've given you different ideas. There are 16% of people that have identified that the stimulus check and their tax refund check are going to allow them to splurge on something. It's found money to them, and they're going to splurge. And that's okay too, because obviously their situation was well off or in a right position for them to be able to do that. But splurging as a way to create a feel good inside of yourself, or to take your mind off of something because you go and do something, has consequences, and that consequences are you're going to have to pay for that at some point. So going out and getting a car right now because you don't have to make payments for 3 to 6 months, or you're getting 0% interest for 5 years, or whatever it is, you still got to pay for the car. So you just got a little break as to how soon you have to pay for the car. But it's not like the car magically is given to you for free. You still have to be financially responsible and be smart with the decisions that you're making, because it's on you. I realize that we're in this together, and there's been some great things that have come out because of this. Phone calls are up by 35%. Why? Because people are discovering the power of a phone call. Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. How you doing? Rather than texting. Calling friends. Calling people that they haven't talked to in a while. Getting back to that basic, how you doing? Even calling the next door neighbor that's maybe elderly and going through this alone. Just saying, hey, how you doing? Can I bring you something? What's going on? So the phone call's working. You've got Zoom meetings, which is the video meetings now. I've seen where a lot of people are doing Zoom birthdays, Zoom anniversary celebrations, Zoom gender type meetings, okay? There are ways to, I think what's going to be really great through all this is the social interaction that we're going to create amongst ourselves, and the positive that's going to come out of it, to want to make sure that we do a better job keeping in touch with our loved ones, prioritizing our family members at home, telling people that you love them a little bit more. There's going to be some good things that come out of this, but financially, it's going to be a hit. I've been saying since early January, strap on your boots, because it's going to get deep and it's going to get ugly. And We had this little lull come back up, and I think people got lulled in complacency. The stock market is going to struggle. We are down 1,000 points in the last 2 days. 80% of S&P 500 companies have said, forget our guidance on earnings and revenues because we just don't know. And what drives stock prices? Earnings and bottom line revenues. So you need to be handling your finances just like a corporate balance sheet, making sure that what your earnings are going to be and how you're getting them and what you have, and making sure that you can drop money to the bottom line to take care of all those things that you need to take care of. And for a lot of us, myself included, I'm responsible for, several people. It's not just on me. So I need to be smart with my decisions that I'm making for everybody, and smart with the way that I'm doing my part in this bigger picture of things, of helping or trying to be a solution and not a problem. And realize that we're all in this together. There is a 4-letter word that is so powerful, that conjures up so many great things, that probably will be the greatest word, in my opinion, to come out of this, and that's love. Love the healthcare workers who are our new hero. Love those people that are out there picking up the trash or delivering groceries or doing those things to make sure that you and your family are taken care of. And love those people that are under your roof, because that's the most important things in life, is appreciating and loving what you have and doing our best to give back on a daily basis to let those people know that we love them and that we're here for them. And financially, get good habits and be responsible, and guess what? Things will be a lot brighter on the other side. This has been Pat Moran for Healthier Money. Live long and profit.